Cockroaches, growth bubbles, anything that we're gonna do? Are we good? We are super good. Mega good. Stream full forward. There it is. So good. Okay, here's my clicker. I didn't check whether I can go back. Oh, how can I go back with this? Oh, there you go. Oh, amazing. Cool. Yeah, it's my first time on stage. Welcome, everyone. So, this is the product here with Leah. It's my logo. It's very cool. I didn't do it myself. And when Tanya asked me what to talk about, I said, hey, you know what? The number one thing that I always see, even if you do not know me, this might sound a little bit confusing, it's always about growth. What is growth? If you have 10 people in a room, there's 12 opinions, but everybody's afraid of really asking, like, what is it actually? And what has it to do with product management? Because some of you think, rightfully so, that it belongs to product management and some do not. So when I was giving this kind of title, I did not expect it to be the final title, but it turned out to be the final title because I was busy and lazy. So I just had to roll with it. So if we take the title of this presentation, what is growth product management in 2024? Then we have a couple of interesting things about it. First, I thought, is this talk about product management in 2024? But I kind of already threw the word growth in there, and I probably already printed the signal, so you know what, I'm going to bring it back, but maybe in brackets. So in order to kind of understand what I'm talking about today, we have to define a couple of words in this. And I always start my presentations the same. I always try to define, what is she talking about? So let's talk about product management. What is product management? What product management is, if I would kind of, you know, become very blasé and I try to pretend that I know what I'm talking about, then I would say something like this. As product managers, we're building with our teams parts or solutions which address specific needs of customers in a commercial setting. And these solutions need to be good, but also relevant enough. This would land on a cup of tea that says Agile at the bottom, right? But as we've heard from Tanya, Agile is dead. And sounds super, super cool, right? So, yeah. That could be already the end of the presentation. So what is product management, right? But the reality is that product management is defined by this guy, Gary. Now, if you followed me, you know that I have made people's lives miserable that are called Gary that are working in sales. Why did I do this? First of all, Gary has promises, and you can see it on his finger. What does Gary do? Gary starts to promise things that you did not build yet to customers that you don't have yet. And it's going to pretend that if you don't do it, everything is going to die. The company goes under, you lose your job, he loses his job, everything is bad. Gary does this because Gary has an incentivization plan that his boss has given him, probably also your boss. If you're the CEO, sorry, that's your fault. And he does what he's being told to. And in the back, we have the product and support people who are extremely miserable because they have to deal with whatever Gary is pointing at and what he's doing. And Gary is defining product management in 2024 quite a lot. I don't want to get in too much into detail with Gary. People love Gary, but we're going to talk a little bit about Gary, okay. So, what is Gary to do with all of this? Let's see a more realistic description of what product management is for people. I made a thread yesterday on Reddit, and I asked, so hey, what is product management for you? Well, first of all, as product managers, we're building something that Gary from sales wants. I'm not sure why, but I'm building something. I'm unclear what I build is actually good enough, but Gary wants it. I have too much shit to do. Excuse me, I hope it's okay that I swear. Can you not? Okay, very good. I'm sorry, it's going to get worse from here on. Everything sucks. That's product management, right? And everybody in the room went just like, except the people from sales like, yeah, and? Tough shit, I have a tough job. So let's go back to this. So what is growth product management? We've defined now what product management is. I don't want to bore you with this. So this was the appetizer, but now we're going to talk about growth. And I want to spend some minutes on this one. What is growth? And what does it have to do with product management? So, what is growth? The typical way in how you introduce growth into an organization, I'm going to start a little bit weird. I'm going to tell you how to integrate it before I tell you what it is. Just stick with me. The first thing that you usually see is that someone is coming in and is saying like, we need to measure outcomes. I need outcomes from you, Leah. I cannot have the features anymore. And you're like, oh, that sounds great because everybody's talking about this. Let's just do this, right? So we start to have outcomes in our organization. An outcome could be, I want to bring 100,000 MQLs with a very cool meme that I'm going to post on LinkedIn. That will be an outcome. Whether it's a good outcome is another question, but marketing, sales, and product is starting to kind of notice that people want to have predictability. Specifically, if you're in a growing company, people will ask you to define outcomes rather than features. So far, so good. And then we create eventually a growth team that still nobody knows what they're exactly doing, and then we have a head of growth. And the CEO usually has this funny question, we have a growth team now. I do not know exactly what they do. I give them all the other crap that product doesn't want to do, but they need engineers, and then marketing doesn't have a clue anyways, and sales doesn't do anything except phone calls off. So where do I put this? That's one of the questions. So where does this belong in an organization? Now, I cannot give you the answer, but I can tell you my preference. So if we're talking about growth, what we usually talk about is a function that exists in your company very often now inside of product or underneath it. Now, why is this important? This is gaining in popularity in most companies that I'm working with, and I will tell you who I am in a second. It's very collaborative because a product team and a growth team are usually having the same structures. They have designers, they have product managers, they have engineers. I still didn't tell you what they do, right? So that's the funny part. But I'm telling you what they are. They might be limited to monetization influence over sitting in sales, because if you're not with sales, then you're against sales. Right? You know this. You're either with us or against us. Just what it is. I'm sorry, is there anyone here from sales, by the way? Anyone? You're not called Gary, though. Okay. And it works really great with tiger teams due to the same level. So this is the pitch that I give to C-levels. You're a CEO, you're very important, this is where you put it, this is what you do. And I still haven't told you what it actually does. So let's talk about what it isn't. Because there's a lot of people probably in the room, and also listening on LinkedIn, hi LinkedIn, that would say, like, growth and marketing, it's kind of the same, right? It's not really different. It's just like the letters are different, but it's not really different, right? Like, it's the same thing. The problem is that growth marketing, like the term itself, is also not helping, right? Because growth marketing is an actual thing, but we're not talking about this either. So let me just show you now what I'm actually talking about. So what is growth in an organization? Let's assume most of the companies that we have here today and that you are working in are constructed in some kind of way that reflects this. First part is we make a promise. This promise is defined by and with marketing. Of course, makes sense. What do we promise? This is our acquisition. The second part is the product. The product is trying to deliver on this promise. The closer these two are, the easier it gets to monetize the thing. If you have Gary, that's why he's in brackets, just like being passive-aggressive here, because not everybody has sales, then we are monetizing it, right? So like what we want from it. Promise, fulfilling the promise, monetizing it. Makes a lot of sense, right? We have a full product. Except you don't. You're missing one important step here. And this is where growth is starting to gain a lot of traction. If you've noticed, very cheekily, I started to blend in some percentages in there in the middle. There's no one in your company that takes care between the transition from customers coming in and then experiencing the product, from customers experiencing the product then to be monetized. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about growth is commonly in between, and it's optimizing these pathways between what we promise, what we deliver to the customer, and how much we charge for it. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about connecting users as efficient with product value as we can. Efficient. This is about efficiency. You all going to have to make much more pictures because this slide is going to expand a little bit more. So for instance, it's about sign-up flows. It's about activation. It's about onboarding, making this more or better for the customers, right? Because product doesn't really do that. Marketing doesn't really do that. So a typical outcome of a growth team would be improve the amount of percentages of people going from A to B, from free to trial, trial to pro, that kind of thing. Just as a very basic example. And marketing cannot handle that. Now you can make a picture. Now it's done, I swear. Okay, marketing cannot handle that. Why can marketing not handle that? Who in here is from marketing? I'm so sorry now. Okay, so let's assume this is your house. You've built this house. This is your product. This is the product that you have offered. It's a great house. If you're going into it, you feel like $1,000,000. It's the best house that you have ever built in your career. Everybody should be in it. And marketing is bringing all these people. Look at all these people, how funny they look. I told ChatGPT to create people made out of money, and this is what it came up with. And you ask marketing, hey, how can they enter the house that doesn't have a door? Then they're going to make you a really nice campaign that says, please enter through the window. It's fine. We don't need a door because we do not have engineers that can build a door because we're a marketing team. But we're going to optimize the people that are getting into the window. And that's a problem, as you would agree. Sorry for all the marketing people. I still love you. We still need you, right? So this is okay. So growth is a lot about making these paths. So bringing people, creating the doorway without changing the actual house, making it easy to get into, making sure that the people that are coming in are also the ones that are supposed to be in there. And if we're now contrasting this with product management, classically, we're thinking about two things. As you all know, we should have product market fit first before we sell it. So product market fit means I have something really good that kicks ass, that is relevant enough for enough people. And then on the right-hand side, after you have this, we are doing some kind of distribution, so we try to distribute it to people. And you have a couple of choices in how you do this. You can do this with product-led growth. You can do it with product-led sales. You can do it sales-led growth, which means Gary is going out and he's doing it. There's nothing, not everything about Gary is bad. But we have a choice on how we distribute our product. And we tend to think as product managers that this is a sequence. Do this first, distribute, get paid, and then not be stressed. But let's put this in a different context. Let's say at the very left, we have small companies. So now we're going to look into the scale of companies as well. And if you're thinking about how important is a product team when it is really, really small versus when it is all the way to the right, when it starts to grow, it starts to become extremely big. We can say that the core product, and this is what I talk about when I talk about core product management, so building the house, building the features, building the stuff that actually people are using inside of the product. You can slightly tell, you people over there, you can't because you're sitting at a really weird angle, is that this bar is getting a little bit thinner. Not really, but a little bit thinner. It stays important. It is important. But core product management at scale is starting to get less important. Why though? Because growth, as soon as you have found product market fit, is about now spending time on the door. We're not substantially changing the house too much anymore, so when we build a door, it's going to probably stay where it is. If we build the door too early, then I cannot change the house anymore, which makes the product obviously worse. So why does this matter now? Because the bigger we get, again, you cannot see that over there, is that this bar here gets a little bit bigger. So the bigger the company gets, the more outsized impact a growth team has, because it affects all people who move through, everyone, all the features that you have built. So let me ask you a question, and you can give your opinion by a raise of hand. This is a small PDF, this is a tool page, so if you have compressed a file and you're landing on this particular page, the question always kind of comes up. Who is owning this page? So we have a title, this is about compressing a PDF, we have a drop area, don't we have good memories on that kind of time? Former colleague of Small PDF sitting there. Then we have some more text on like what the features are and some other text. Who in here thinks that this page should be owned by marketing? Okay, I scared the entire room now. Who in here thinks this page should be owned by product or growth? You tried to guess the correct answer. The correct answer, at least for myself, is that this part, the title, the keyword, everything that we market outside that has an actual relevance for SEO and so forth should be owned by marketing. The drop area that gives us functionality should be owned by growth or product management. It's very clear that you should do this. And this part down here, depends on how you define it, should be owned by marketing and growth. The problem is that when we are talking about who should own a specific page, then we're already presupposing that there should be one owner. And that is problematic. So the way that we built this is that this red kind of area, so the process when it starts was under the control of growth, and they optimized a lot about it. But the titles and the keywords, this was with marketing, because obviously they do better than the product managers on how much this is monetizable. Makes sense, right? We're all in agreement. Everybody's nodding now. Now you're scared of my questions. So, okay. So the answer is both. And the answer is always also depends. So let's now redefine again what product management in this aspect of growth actually is. As growth product managers, we optimize the path to value for our customers and our business. We have an outsized impact on all other teams as a result of that. And the bigger a company, the more likely it is worth it to have a growth team. I would say if I had to give you a number, let's pretend I have to give you a number because I like giving numbers. If I had to give you a number, I would say any company above 10 to 15 million in revenue per year should already have a growth team. I spoke in the last 3 weeks to 3 companies that have more than 100 million per year, and they do not have a growth team. And the thing that I'm thinking in that sense is like, how did you make it this big? But that's amazing, because if you're making all of this money without having growth teams, this means you can now optimize a lot, because 15 million, 30 million, all of these numbers mean that you have much more product teams than the smaller companies. A company at 150 million probably has between 30, 50 teams. Imagine how crazy it is if I start to optimize the flows of the customers coming in. I'm going to affect everyone. Makes sense, right? Cool. So let's now talk about these growth responsibilities. It's one of my favorite slides because it shows you that I'm extremely important because I have a pyramid in it. I always make this joke. Some people have heard it now 5 times, some have not at all. So if we think about the market, we can think about it in this way. We have some kind of enterprise segment, very few people, very difficult, very Gary. And what we do usually is we're selling over sales. It makes sense, right? They have a lot of money, they have a lot of questions, they're very, very annoying. So we're doing this with sales-led growth. In the middle, we have product-led sales, which is a combination between product-led growth and sales-led growth. And product-led growth is like the self-serve movement where we talk about, hey, you know, like you should self-serve your value and so forth. So depending into which segment that you're selling, there is a motion that makes more sense. The problem is, I sometimes do not know which one of these motions is the best before I actually build it. But how can I know how valuable my product is if I do not know anything about these things? If I'm a product manager that still does not know what these terms actually mean, that is problematic. So I'm trying to make a case here. And the case is that you cannot just like sit inside of your house and just hope to build a little bit of a house if you do not know who's coming in afterwards and how the pathways there should also be built. So let me give you some examples. So for instance, when we talk about product-led sales, which is like this combined motion where we take a little bit of both, we talk about identifying products or like qualified accounts, so how company accounts are reacting and using our product inside, and then we try to flag them to sales. And we say, Gary, look at this deal, they love our product, you just need to call them. And then Gary does not get shouted at because they know that they already love our product. There's a difference, right? We can do this as a product team. The second thing, for example, would be to balance packaging between sales and product, because one of the things that you always hear is when you do product-led growth, it's like, yeah, but I don't want to sell our $50,000 package deal for $50 a month. It's always a little bit difficult conversation to have when Gary's in the room, right? Because we're telling him that he's going to earn less. So growth teams traditionally also are part of this discussion where we talk about like, what do we charge for what? Another thing is that we need to separate prospects into the right level. As much as I love small individuals that have one-people companies, you do not belong into a call with a salesperson. You just shouldn't. So we should design our products for those that do self-serve, and then on the end, the bigger accounts should go to a salesperson, and so forth and so forth. Just stick with me. So on the product-led growth side, what we do is we have usually highly optimized onboarding flows, right? So like everything is geared towards self-serve. We're mastering the quantified view around smaller accounts. We had so much data to play with on small PDF. It was really amazing. Like after 10 hours, you knew already that the experiment that you launched is absolute shit and statistically significant shit, excuse me. And that's really cool. But so you learn how to deal with quantitative data. What you do not learn is the things that we have to also know as product managers and growth product managers when we talk about sales-led growth. we have to start to provide better interactive demos for the salespeople to actually show our product to our prospects. It's called interactive demos, a very exciting thing. I'm going to talk about this next time. But we also need to know how to connect this qualitative, low data stuff, so opinions from Gary, from prospect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in some kind of way make it meaningful. There's a lot of people who are working in these environments where we just do not know how to verify these opinions. Because everybody on LinkedIn is talking about, no, yeah, you have to run an A/B experimentation, and then you have 3 million data points. And then you just look at it, and it's like, I have 10 prospects somewhere. How am I supposed to verify this? So this is important. And now all of you are probably going to go, oh my Lord, why do we have to take care of this? Are you joking? Yeah, exactly, totally. So you might ask yourself, like, why do I have to deal with this? Well, first of all, I'm saying that as a product manager or product managers, you have to all do a little bit of what growth does, all of you, even if you just build inside of the house. And the other problem is that you are the only people in the room, in product, that understand and have access to this product data together with your engineers and your designers. So you're the only ones that are even equipped to do any of the stuff that I just told you, because if you do not have data, you cannot do any of it. Marketing can only look at the surface. So I already told you this. Marketers usually do not have engineers. It's not that they don't like engineers, they just never managed engineers. So therefore, all the changes that they will do is on the sign and not the actual door. Does that make sense? No matter how good you design the design, no matter how good you design the sign, you will always have to go into the window because you cannot change the door. Sales doesn't care. I'm so glad that no one from sales is here. Okay. And we need product data for all of it. All the things that I just told you before. Okay. So let's go back. Do you want to take a screenshot of this one? Let me just go back. See, this is service. Okay. So let's go forward. There's another word in here that I didn't define for you yet, so far, and that's the word 2024. So what is 2024 looking like? What is our market environment looking like? And what has that to do with anything, Leah? Well, let me put it this way. AI, so all these productivity tools, low interest rates, which means a difficult job market. I have a lot of applicants for jobs that I did not have a lot of applicants before, qualified ones too. And an over-commoditized market will blur the lines between product and growth. Sounds, again, amazing on a cup that says agile is dead. So let's talk about the first part first. What does it mean? What does AI really have as an effect for us as product managers or product management in a company? It means you have a lot of competition from other PMs because a lot of PMs have lost their jobs. First of all, we have started to get realistic valuations. That means less people being employed for the same kind of traction. It's clear, you all know this. And the focus of companies is now on retaining customers and capital efficiency. What does that mean? That means the dollars that you're putting to work, that you cost as a salary, need to do more work than they used to do. And there's a lot of numbers that I'm not going to show you about this, you just have to take my word on this. So let's go on the second one. Over-commoditized market, a word that I learned that makes me also look very, very serious. So what does over-commoditization mean? This means you cannot just ship good products. Over-commoditized means we have a lot of choice for the same problem to solve. And if I have 20 cars to choose from and I need a new car, then I'm not going to test drive all 20. I'm going to test drive 4 of them. And it doesn't matter whether the other 16 are better, because I just do not have the bandwidth. And so do our customers also evaluate us. So it's not just about whether your house is amazing, but whether it has a door. If it's the only house, maybe it matters whether you can get into the window or not, and so forth. Who in here has used Salesforce ever in their life? I'm very sorry for you. But Salesforce, back in the days, horrible interface, absolute crap to deal with, but it did a very, very important thing. It solved classical sales problems. Salesforce, as it looked back then, would not sell today a single dollar. Okay, I mean, it's not selling dollars, but you get the point, right? Because there was no choice. Salesforce was really the only thing for these companies to do so. But if you have a choice, and we do have a choice because of AI, it's easier to produce a lot of solutions for the same kind of problems, then this trial period, how easy it is to try and also understand what your product offers, is becoming more important. So I hope you're with me still. The question is now, so what should I do in product now, in 2024? That's all nice, right? So you just did the doomer thing. Let me introduce myself. My name is Leah Tharin. I am a B2B growth advisor. Now you know what growth means for scale-ups, like Notion Capital, which is a fund, North One Paddle, and so forth. I don't want to bore you with this. I'm also an interim CPGO, which is the most annoying title that I could think of when I got into that position. I'm the Chief Product and Growth Officer at GodPhoto, which is the Shopify for photographers. And I've been part of 2 hypergrowth companies, Small PDF and Dyndeal. I was very, very fortunate. I worked for Microsoft, yeah, boo, I know. Jua AI and so forth, and I write and talk a lot about product-led growth. I have a podcast and I do all this kinds of stuff. So what I do, in other words, is I help scale-ups to get this kind of growth motion right and teach other senior product people how to understand product-led growth. And this is why I had to smile when Tanya was introducing also what she does and what she thinks are the learnings. I'm 100% subscribed, except for maybe the cockroaches. I think it's a dirty word. I don't know. I just don't like cockroaches. I don't know. So again, let's go back to this slide now that I injected myself in my own presentation. So what should I do in product in 2024? You need to know 3 competencies, and this is how I usually approach this right now in product. So when I go into a company, I do these 3 things. And they're usually very tricky for normal product managers. And normal product managers, I know we are all not really normal, and that's not what I like. You get the point, right? So the common product managers in the market right now will struggle with these. And you need to learn them to stay ahead. So let's go into these 3 things. The first one is you need to understand your product like no one else in the company. And unfortunately, a lot of product managers do not know that, or they're not in that case. Whether they're not enabled or they do not know how to do this. But if you do not know, then when I'm changing something down here in how it affects the revenue in some kind of way, and that is difficult, it is difficult. If you do not understand this, then it's really hard to build a good product. And the growth teams have an easier job usually. The simple, like the pure growth teams, they're sitting on free to trial, trial to pro, right? Like I know my conversion numbers, I'm going to push it from 15 to 16%. But if you're building a core product, you have like 20 different features, 5 of them that nobody is really using. If you touch number 6, the entire product is going to implode and so forth. So it's difficult, right? Like it's a bit harder for you, but you still need to know what's going to happen if you pull one thing, whether the house is breaking apart. You need to understand and connect to the company's revenue what you do. That means you need to measure your data, you need to be able to analyze it, and you need to be able to surface it to other stakeholders. That's a big ask, and I'm spending months in my organization as well to kind of get there. And you need to know when to use quantitative data and when to talk about qualitative, because usually the reality is that we are just comfortable in what we do and what we know. So I'm either good at qualitative or I'm good at the quantitative side, right? Because, yeah, and I know the one thing, right? But the truth is really in both. Qualitative data tells you what to ask. Quantitative data makes sure that it is the correct thing in which order you should tackle it. That's why you cannot forego any one of these 2. And if I ask this question, if I ship this particular thing as a product manager, does this improve our GTM? Then I have 95% of all product managers that are looking at me and they're just confused and they do not know what I'm talking about. And that's not good, because you're giving people not a reason to keep you on the job. Because if you know your product better than anyone else, there's no one else for you to replace you. So you need to know about product-led growth a little bit. You need to know a little bit about product-led sales, especially if you have sales in the call. And you need to know about Gary. You need to know about Gary if you are in a company that is selling only through sales, whether you like it or not. That's just what you have to do. And you need to have talked about them. Because the other thing is, and this is mostly prevalent in sales-led growth companies, you need to learn how to talk about dollars. You need to know the basics of your company financials by heart. And this is so annoying. If you do not know What is MRR and ARR of your subscription business? How much do we make? How much do we make per customer? LTV, lifetime value, and so forth, and so forth. Imagine for a second with me that you are one of these product managers that knows what's going on in the company and how it connects to what you're building. And imagine you know what's up, and you are talking and you're saying cool sounding sentences that are sounding like we can adopt up to 500 customers over there in the next 2 years, driving 2 million ARR and reduce churn by 2% per year with this particular feature, including the research, including the data, and you sound already super, super cool. And I'm sitting there, and Gary is coming from the side and is giving me a business case that says, hey, dear CPO, can I have this feature, please? Thanks, Gary from sales. And Gary can fuck right off. That's the reason why you have to do it. That's why we need to be able to talk about dollars, because Gary is hired to talk about dollars, and he can do it better than you, and that means his stuff is going to land more likely in the backlog than yours. That's why. That was good, right? Okay, so the third thing is we have to start simple. That's an advice that I always give. Please start simple. So all of this stuff that I just told you, I know it's really, really hard. But please, please start simple. Giving you a couple of examples on an example company like Small PDF, like whatever results that you're looking at, it starts with understanding what your users are doing inside of your product. And at the very, very least, you should know when is a customer ready to go. This would be the setup moment, then we have an aha moment. When did they actually experience our particular product? Can we measure it? Do we have a eureka moment where people are going like, oh, I need to share this on TikTok, or I need to tell this other guy at this other dinner that we're going to have tomorrow, and so forth. Like, when do our customers develop a habit, and so forth? If you do not have these signals and you do not measure them, how do you know what people are doing in your product? And you can do this all the way up to the account level. So I don't want to bore you with the details. But the message here is that you need to measure, you need to surface, and you need to correlate product usage. And if you want to start with something, then start with your aha moment. Can you confidently say that you know in a measurable way what it means that a customer has done in your product, so you have a flag somewhere in the database to say, yes, they understood what we are doing? So with a car, it would be, have they finished the trip? Do they exit the car, or is it when they are booking a car, if you're an Uber platform, and so forth? I don't know. Whatever it is, find an aha moment. This is your core value. Sit together with everyone in the company. You don't need to come up by this yourself. You need to surface it to sales. That's always a good one. If you're starting to come up proactively and say like, hey, sales, Gary, listen, right? Look at all these nice deals that I have for you. And then if Gary starts to notice that they convert better than the other stuff that he's doing, where he's getting screamed at all the time, then you have a friend in Gary. And it's good to have Gary as a friend, because then we can correlate it to the revenue. We can compare, out of that many people that have reached the aha moment, we make so many dollars, right? And now I have a correlation between each other. C-levels like me, we love dollars, right? Like we can say like, oh, we're spending $500 on this particular customer. We love this stuff. And for this, you need to start to talk to marketing, to sales, to customer success, and understand their jobs. There is no excuse in 2024 why you are going to work as product managers and you're not talking to these other silos and you do not know what they do. It's not acceptable. I don't accept it. Everybody just probably feels like they're now in a performance evaluation. So I do not accept this anymore. So when I see proposals for projects, like what are you going to do in the next quarter, from every product team, I want to make sure that they have thought about this. Does this have an impact on sales? Does it have an impact on marketing? Does it affect anyone? And why did you think about it? And it's not about to find reasons for your stuff that you want to build. It's just that you are the only person who can really holistically think about this stuff. And it's such a good position to be in. Because in the end, this is my most chaotic moment that I've ever brought. Like, this is my canvas, right? It really is about understanding how your machine works. That's what this is about. You need to guess less, and you need to know more. Whatever it looks like, whether our customers are jumping from this side to the other side, whether they're running through the middle, and so forth, you should be the people who have the most clue about this. Because in the end, this is about showing value and not talking about it. I'm really sorry for being so self-promotional. I also included a 30% voucher in here. for the next PLG cohort. I normally do not do this. People who have seen me speak know that I don't do this normally. But it is important that you learn about this. And I think the best entrance into this area of growth, product management, is really to learn about product-led growth, because self-serving, understanding how trials work, freemiums and so forth, is a really, really, really good thing. Whether you do it with me, whether you do it with Reforge, whether you do it with others, just do it somewhere if you haven't done it so far. And yeah, that's everything that I have for you today. Thank you so much. Did I go too short or too long? I wasn't sure.
You're perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, I think you can really judge how well our talk is going by seeing how many people raise their phone, like try to capture everything. We'll have your slides, right, afterwards?
Yes, I thought they took pictures of my spelling mistakes.
You, of course.
No,
we'll send out the slides afterwards also, so you don't, even if you didn't take any pictures, you'll get them. Yeah, so we have another 10 minutes with Leah, or 5 to 10 minutes max with Leah, so we'll be able to ask a couple of questions. Yes, I think there are already some. Yeah, Daniele, go ahead.
Yeah, you're so great.
I will bring you a microphone. I think it makes it easier.
That was the question?
Yes. Ah, that was the question. Okay, good.
Think
just
a better question, man. Come on.
Anyone with a real question? Nina, go ahead.
I love the part about like who owns it, right? Where you showed the page, and I'm a firm believer that the answer is right. That it depends, and often it's not one team that owns it.
Yep.
Do you have any great advice other than talk to them to how do you break down the silos so people actually collaborate and do that effectively?
So I think a thing that always works but almost never really pans out is that you have to try to kind of figure out what is the impact now. So let me be clear on this. Let's say you follow all of my advice and you know how your company metrics are coming together, and we in C-levels are always great in understanding because we have board slides that we are being enslaved to do, right? Like where we also we try to kind of figure out how our numbers are looking like. It has been always relatively easy for me to make a really good case for putting it on the growth, and like product growth, because usually the sign-up flows are really shitty in a company that does not do growth. And the metrics, so the amount of money that we can generate as an uplift on the percentage of the revenue that we have as a company, is usually much bigger with much more confidence than anything else that anyone else can actually produce. So for instance, if you put it into marketing, right, like you can make a case for like, yeah, we're going to make the sign more beautiful so the people can get into the window. And at some point it's just not working anymore, right? Like, and these obvious things are just not working out that much anymore. But if you start to have a company that has 100 million in ARR and you're improving the sign-up flows from free to trial, from trial to pro by just 5%, it's a very real number with very real examples, with a lot of material also on the web on how other companies are doing it, like Canva, Figma. I have a blog where I talk about this quite a lot. It's just easier to believe as a C-level. And if your C-levels do not believe it, that's also possible and so forth, but I just want to caution people. If you go in there and you say it needs to go on the growth, you also need to have an answer on how you are not going to take away the salary from sales. Because this is usually where we meet resistance. You go in and you say like, oh, we're going to do product-led growth. Oh, we're going to just like optimize the flows. We do not need money anymore for all these sales compensation plans. You're threatening people's livelihood. And that's going to create a lot of resistance in the company, of course. I know that was not a complete answer, but I think you have to tackle it case by case. So what would it look like if you put it in a different silo? Marketing doesn't have the engineers usually. So that means it's just like top of funnel. And that's not good.
But so it's not a collaboration of 3 different teams. What you're saying is growth, basically.
You can also put growth as a separate silo, but I like putting them into product because they have the most common product team structure. Right, like with a PM, with a designer, with all these engineers. So they're anyway like growth teams in the first couple of months, they're going to piss off everyone because you come and talk about price, sales is mad. You're going to talk about, hey, can we maybe change the landing page because people are not converting, marketing now is mad. Oh, we're going to change how you can interact with the drop area of the product. Now product is mad. That's a problem, right? Like, but that's just how we're still kind of dealing with this problem that we separated people into functions. Oh, the product manager's over there, the designer's over here, and sales over there. As if that would do anything for the company. And so yes, it is very, very cross-functional. It's the most cross-functional role that you can have in a company, in my opinion. Yeah. Hi, Julia.
Hi, Leah. I have a question exactly to this. So, what I'm wondering is, are you talking as for the growth team as a interdisciplinary team made of all the functions? So have like products, design, engineers, sales, data, or maybe some other business analysts in this team, cross-functionally working together, or I don't know, one or two specialists with this growth title who are doing some analysis and then somehow frustrating the other teams.
So it seems I have failed the promise of my presentation to actually explain what that is. But I mean, no, it's a very good question. So it depends. It depends on where your opportunity is. So when I hire new growth product managers, I don't tell them what to do. I tell them to go into the data, find out the biggest opportunity, and then we put a team together that actually addresses whatever it is. It might be with an API. That means I don't need a designer. It might be because, I don't know, like the opportunity is just somewhere else. Maybe they need back-end engineers, maybe they do not need them. My broader point on this presentation is more like we all have to think like a cross-collaborative team that has much more, you know, their fingers a little bit everywhere. So to answer your question, yes, I'm also a fan of having marketers in a growth team if it's necessary, because if it's a very, very SEO-driven company, you obviously also should have this particular knowledge in there. Whatever it takes for that team to create some kind of value independently, to make these pathways easier to walk, yes, give it to them. So I don't know whether that answers your question. A classical growth team in a SaaS company usually has a product manager or a product marketing manager, plus a couple of engineers, depending on how front-end heavy it is, which it usually is.
And could it be run as a project organization? So saying that for this time period, we pull together people from the different functions, but we don't pull them out of the normal team structure? Or would you rather propose to create a new team which like really comes and builds up a new team?
That's a great question. In reality, the best is really to have a silo somewhere that is called growth, and underneath there are growth teams. It's usually attached to the CPO, at least in my case. The second best solution is to have a growth team somewhere in some kind of capacity. The third, or the second worst option, is to do it exactly in the way that you said, which we sometimes have to do. We have to put people together as a project, but this is a project like dealing with tech debt that is never over. It never is. If you think you can optimize your growth funnel a little bit and then it's going to be over and done, you have not worked in product management, right? You know, like this is like one of these forever projects. You're not going to deal with tech debt and then it's like, oh, you know, from now on we do not have tech debt anymore. That's, but I know exactly what you mean. Like it's this reflex that, oh, let's do a project to improve our sign-up flow. You can do this maybe as a very early stage company, that makes sense. But as you become bigger, you start to have more and more and more and more product teams. It's not just one, right? Like we have multiple ones. Miro has, I don't know how many. No, I'm not going to say anything because they're probably listening. So I don't know. Yeah.
So it's complex and it depends, our favorite answer. But
Yeah,
I think we got a bit
exactly.
closer to the real answer. One more question and then we'll take a break. Anyone? Yeah, Cosima, I will bring you the microphone.
Thank you, Leah. Where do you put innovation? In the core team or in the...
Where do I put what, sorry?
Innovation. So let's assume you're a Salesforce, you have been at it for a couple of years, and then you're noticing maybe in some part of your core product, you don't have product market fit anymore. With AI, with new technology coming up, where do you put the innovation?
When you talk about, so your question was, where do we put innovation? And innovation, you mean like bringing new products inside of a company from 0 to 1?
Yes.
It's a very good question. I think you should still structure it sort of the same, but because it is something new, you do not have existing data that you can cross-match it against. That usually means, to your question now, Julia, that the product manager that is leading whatever that innovation is, or like this innovative bet, that they're very, very, very strong on the qualitative side, but also the business side. Why? Because you need to create a business case out of thin air, which we love, because someone is promising us numbers, right? Without having the quantitative data to back it up. These are usually the hardest areas to work in. And what we usually try to do as product managers, we call this PMF expansion. So this is like product market fit expansion. This is what we call this, is we try to fundamentally either change the product. So like You know, instead of just having a house with one floor, we have now 2 floors. Or we change the market of the same product, but we keep the product the same. And the reason we do this is that we're trying to limit the negative impact of getting something wrong, because then you still kind of know what was the reason for it. So for instance, if you take your product and you start to bring it into a new market, it might be that the exact same product just does not work because the culture in that market is different. But then you know it's not about the product, it's the market, it's the product market fit. Whereas if you change the product in a market you have already been, then you know that it is because you changed the product that so many things have changed. Does that make sense? This was a bit of a word salad. What I'm basically saying is that you need to know how to do A/B experimentation without having enough historical data. So contain it and, yeah, but still with product, of course. Yeah.
Yes, and we're out of time for questions, but Leah might still be here around for a couple of minutes. Yeah. We will have a 15-minute bio break. Do you all know the game, we call in German, call it Reise nach Jerusalem? Does anybody know the thing in English? This is what's going to happen. We're going to play some music. When the music stops, you all come back and take a seat, right? You all come back and take a seat, either in this room or in the other room, depending which track you want to follow. There's agendas displayed on some of the walls and some of the screens, so make up your mind which room you want to be in, and for those who are in a room, tweet about what you learned so the other ones can benefit too, okay?
Thank you.
Enjoy your break.
Dankeschön. Ich war mir nicht sicher, weil der Timer ging über 45 Minuten. Ich bin noch auf dem Mikrofon. Hugo, du musst mich abschalten.
Cooler Vortrag.
Dankeschön. How do I? Ja, ich bin's ja gleich. Ah, da.